Priestess Transmission. Conversations beyond the noise. Where truth rises and the soul remembers. You are here. Take a breath and arrive. This is the Priestess Transmission with Lilly. A sacred space beyond the noise. Where ancient wisdom, soul truth, and the divine feminine rise. Here, we remember who we truly are. Here, your heart, your voice, and your soul are honored. Step into the conversation and let your inner priestess awaken.
Welcome to the Priestess Transmission, the space where we move beyond the surface, beyond the roles that we were taught to play, and into the truth of who we are here to be. Today's conversation is going to be a powerful one. We are speaking with the beautiful Priestess Maree Edding about the rise of the Priestess Leader, the evolution between healer, coach, and beyond the layers of our own identity and into embodiment, sovereign leadership. This is not about performance. This is not about fitting into a spiritual identity. This is about truth. This is about embodiment. This is about the courage to lead, even when it feels really fucking uncomfortable. So take a breath, arrive in your body, and let's begin. Welcome, Maree. How are you, gorgeous?
Oh, thank you so much, Priestess Lilly. I'm so excited and happy for this conversation. These are beautiful and very necessary conversations. So thank you for being the curator of them.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation right now that's so important in our collective consciousness because there's so many areas that we're being called to lead and move into. What to you, Maree, does it mean for you to rise as a priestess leader beyond the identities of healer and coach and the labels that we've stepped into?
I think the labels is the actual piece we need to be really aware of. In the old systems where we've learnt spirituality, leadership, coaching, they were all done within that patriarchal view, which is labelled. And our internal compass has been trying to fit us into a box. And we've been kept in a bit of a swirl, which is what the patriarchy does anyway, to keep us stuck in the, am I this type of healer? Am I this type of coach? And us in searching to find the right box, we have forgone our power into what was all about in the first place. And so coming into these spaces that we're in now, which we might call sovereign, which we might call embodied, it's a returning to self. The label was never the issue. It's about holding our power in the ways that we are guided to be in those moments. And so you can be a coach, you can be a healer, you can be a spiritual teacher, or you don't call yourself none of those things. It should not impact or matter what you're bringing to the world because it comes from within. And letting go of that box sometimes is really challenging because it's the identity we think what makes us, and it's the identity what gives us power, and it's the identity that gives us the relevance. But in reality, none of that is true because we've all had a coach and a healer and a spiritual leader, which has been full of shit. But they had great marketing. They had great, messaging on their websites. They could spin off at something really, really amazing. And then you got in their presence and you go, hey, that's a concept that I have embodied, moved through, understand. This is not the pinnacle. And so letting go of all of those labels and understanding that we are, our presence, our energy, our vibration is what creates the power is a shift we're all making right now.
Mm-hmm. So when you think about us as a collective,
mm-hmm.
journey, where do you feel that we have been playing it small in order to stay in the roles for us to feel safe without us stepping into the leading our space?
Without a doubt, it's approval. So we've been seeking, and the system's designed like that. So please don't anyone think that, oh my God, I've got this wrong, because you haven't. We are moving out of this conditioning, and that's why you can see it and feel it now. Whereas when you think about when you're deep in the conditioning, no one would have convinced you otherwise about your label, about what you're bringing, about your messaging, about your marketing, about how great you were, about your modality was the thing that made you. But as we move through these systems and we're coming out the other side, and we all awaken at different times and we all awaken for different reasons, the thing is going, well, hang on a second. No. It's me, and it's not that. And that has to stay outside of me. And the more that we can distance ourselves and realize that it wasn't a con, but it was sort of a con, because the system of patriarchy is a con. It's about keeping people out of their power. So we stay small by believing the system is bigger than us. We stay small by believing the conditioning we have is the only conditioning. We stay small by thinking that, what I've done to date is all I can do and it's all who I am. I heard this amazing quote the other day from someone saying, I don't care where you've been and what you've done. I only care what you're doing right now. And I think when we realize that we are ongoing, always becoming, always growing, and we want to lean into that, knowing there is no end point, there is no right answer, there's only our growth and our continual enthusiasm and curiosity and willingness to be in that space, then not only then will that conditioning be released, otherwise we'll continue to cycle through, am I being approved enough? Do enough people like me? Am I being appropriate? Will I be accepted? The answer should be no on all levels.
And when you think about just that as a whole and how, social media, Instagram, all of those things play a massive part in, the next generation. Am I getting enough likes? It's been a vehicle for us to get our work seen, but it's also a vehicle for us to get that sense of approval, get that validation.
Yeah, and you think about where those systems were, how they were born in the first place. They're about ranking people and rating people. And that basically taps into the part of us that has been conditioned for approval. And so it's working with what is already there. The thing about social media is we can go down a rabbit hole and go, it's bad, it's evil, because it can be. And it works on an algorithm. But remember, it responds to what you feed it, like all algorithms. You are, one of the pieces of work that I do with my clients is remembering that you are the algorithm. Like what we put into it is what we get back. And we can wait for the algorithm to approve of us and to send us the information, which it wants us to believe it does. So if you pay more money, you'll get more approval. If you do more of this, if you dance more, if you point more, we're going to send you more traffic, right? So the algorithm's wanting you to behave the way it wants you to behave. But in reality, the algorithm will respond to you. So all algorithms do that. They can't stop you. They'll have their own way that you want them to use their algorithm. But if I look at the people in, let's think about the coaching, the spirituality, the healing industry, whatever you want to call it, because I think they cover all of those areas or old labels. They don't use ads. They have a lot of traffic come to them. They're making obscene amounts of money, and obscene is in a good way. Like I think that's a good thing for women to get used to. Making lots of money is our part of who we are. It's not something we have to beg for or wait to be perfect to receive. They're doing all of that, and they are doing everything the algorithm will tell you not to do. So remember that we are in charge. Our frequency is actually what is our lead magnet. Our frequency is what makes us magnetism. Our frequency is what our power is. And when we learn to step into that space and not wanting to know how many likes I've got, which makes me X, or how many of this happened, that makes me Y, and we break that idea, that identity and that level of thinking, then we start to feel the freedom of creation and the freedom of being and the freedom of the joy and fun and reverence we have when we help people, when we lead people, when we standing and walking beside people on their journey. Like we're not here to be above people because that system doesn't work. We're here to actually walk with people. We're here to allow people and witness people as they evolve. And that is the most magnificent experience that any human can have for another human being. To be heard, to be listened, to be seen, that is pure power.
Absolutely. And, that whole collapsing of the guru model is really what we're seeing tenfold right now.
Absolutely. And I think the guru model has been collapsing. I'm just trying to think in my mind, like the first time I think I saw through a guru, because I was very much like, that was the world, the time frame when I was in personal development and when I was doing my coaching, there was only gurus. That was the only model that was available. And so there was no insight for me to go, this should be different. And that's what we need to remember is we don't sit there and go, when you're in it, you can't see it because you're part of it. It's only when you start to, we can use the word awaken, but only when you start to open up and your intuition starts to take over that you go, I don't think that's right. I'm not quite sure about that. And then I started to be in rooms with people that were emulating the guru model, and my body was sending off massive alarm bells and going, this is pure manipulation. This is about you and not about me. And it was made me feel so sick that it really pushed me out of the industry for quite a while, because I thought, if that's the only thing that's on offer, I don't want to be part of that. Not even realizing at that point in time, there was a whole other way of being and doing and participating in society and leading. And it wasn't until that happened that I went, then I could see all the gurus. And it wasn't me, it was a system that was in play. And there are other ways that we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're really, you and I have talked about numerous times about the system collapsing in our private chats. And we've also, we were just talking about it before, since 2020, this splitting of the world, where I know many mediums and psychics have said there's going to be a new world come into view. But I don't see it as a new world. I see it as an energetic, the splitting of the new earth. When you feel into that, do you feel that's the old and the new spaces are starting to be created?
I think the new spaces have been started to be created for quite a while. And like everything, when we manifest, when things come into form, the physical is the last part of the bodies that comes through it. And so we have our wide, subtle bodies, and we have our energetic bodies, and then we have our physical body. I think we're at the point now where the physical body is starting to go, I can't be here anymore, I have to be there. And that's where the word embodiment takes on a deeper understanding. Embodiment's just not about feeling good. Embodiment is being the thing that we say we are. We think about the guru models and the old spirituality and the old systems. They're about intellect and about talking, and we can talk a good talk, but we all know people that talk a good talk and don't live that world. Now we're basically in the world where you live who you are. There's that veil and those shadows are being removed. And a lot of people won't cope with that because they've not ever taught or been exposed to or understand the body is a physical bit, but it's an energetic piece, and it's actually all of who we are. And when we're not being exposed to that or understand that, it can be very, very confronting, because we've been taught that our intellect is all we are and all we need to be. And that's why we have things in society that are so disconnected. We think about the leadership models. I think about this in the shower before. In the leadership models that we grew up with, it was about saying that someone above us knew more. Someone above us was going to take care of us. Someone above us had already thought about it. Someone above us had already will take care of it. No matter what happens, they will look after it.
That's not true, is it?
Well, and that's patriarchy, but if everywhere that we've been taught, that's a teacher, that's a nurse, that's a doctor, that's your boss, that's the CEO, that's the Prime Minister, that's like all of those people we were brought up, especially in our era, to believe that that's why they got there, because there was something special about them, or they knew something else, or they were more evolved than us. And one of the biggest, disappointments and I suppose heartbreaks that we've had to go through, especially in Gen X, is that that's all bullshit. That's all a lie, because none of that happened. And we know that a lot of people end up in those roles because of privilege and because they were the last person standing, or because they had the most money, or because there's no this idea, this fantasy that we will feel that leadership is this, level of consciousness and is this space of involvement is just not true. And so in breaking our hearts, and sometimes we break our own hearts, we're now available to go, well, hang on a second. We all have the same ability to lead. We all have the same ability to lead ourselves. And that is the difference. When we think about the people around the world right now who we call leaders who are doing an abysmal job, they're not even leading themselves. They're not in that space of consciousness. They're not in any level of embodiment. They're trying to still have power and control over other people. I think that's what we're waking up to is, hang on a minute, this was never about me. It was only about you. And that's not leadership. Leadership is around creating environments where everybody benefits. And that's not a kumbaya, let's all hold hands and be consultative. It's about bringing people to an energetic reality that they get to be more conscious, where they get to be more self-led, where they get to be more open, because those environments can be full of trust and transparency. And without trust and transparency, you're in manipulation.
Yeah. And I think that's really important when you fully anchor into, you leading your energy in a sovereign way, in a empowered way, where we're not giving away our power, we're reclaiming our power. That's when your whole world changes. You actually you take responsibility for some of the things in the choices or the situations that you don't necessarily want to take responsibility for, but it's almost like that's the part where the growth really happens. So when you think about anchored leadership, how does sovereignty, freedom, or whatever that looks like, how does that intertwine? Because I talked about words for the last probably 6-7 years, but people can't, it just feels so far away for people in their reality.
So I like to take it back to the fact that we're energetic beings. Everything we do is energetic. When we enter relationships, we enter them on the level of energy vibration that each party is meant to or is able to provide at the time. If we are used to changing our energetic vibration to the people around us, it means that we are used to changing who we are to fit the environment and fit the narrative. And then we come back home, we feel exhausted because we haven't really accessed our power, we've given it all away. Because we've been conditioned to do that, especially the good girl and helping and people pleasing and all the other things that we've been doing amazing and making everybody else be great, we're used to giving out first before receiving in. That's called entanglement. And we're used to entangling with whatever is the most dominant energy in the room. Now, dominant doesn't have to be good, bad, ugly, reverent, doesn't be anything. It's just what is the most, where people go the most. It could be the person who plays the victim. It could be the person who's the loudest. It could be the person with the most money because we assume they're better. It could be any reason why the room, whatever that room is, will gravitate to the most dominant energy. And we do that for safety purposes because we've been taught in our world that the people who have more than us can harm us because it's a more or a less environment in any way you want to cut it. Money, resources, love, job prospects, housing, food. It's you've got more or you've got less. That's how the patriarchy stays alive. So because we're used to entangling for safety purposes, when we think about sovereignty, we go, oh, that means I have to take all of my power back from all of those entanglements, and sit in a place of what's called independence, not entwinement. So sovereignty comes from this being able to observe the environment without having to entangle with the environment. It's allowing other people to be sovereign and have their opinion and not have to react to that and not ignore it, but understand and come back into, well, how do I feel about that? That's not a conversation I need to be involved in. Move on. That's not a conversation I need to be, but I want to hold some space for that person. So I'm just going to energetically support them right now, but I don't have to say anything. It's understanding that our sovereignty is not about having to speak, convince, stand on a pulpit and go, I am the guru, or I am the leader, or I know the answer, and hold that space. Because when you hold that space for you, that means the dominant energy becomes grounded. And the more grounded everyone's energy becomes, the less entangled they need to be to feel something, to feel power. Because we're entangling with other people with this idea that we will get some of that dominance for ourselves. We will get some of that power will like rub up off us. That person with lots of money will suddenly hit my bank account. Like we're being convinced that proximity is power. And in some degrees it is when it comes to energetic vibration. You should be around people with clean energy. You should be around people that are working on being grounded. You should be around more people that are not just working on themselves, but have a very keen understanding of wanting to be self-led. When you're around those people, the energy is cleaner. The same principles will apply. The most dominant energy will be perversive. However, it's clean. It's not trying to take from you, and you don't get the feeling that I need to protect myself. It's a place where you get to bask because the energy is buoyant and it's fruitful and it's for everybody, and everybody gets to rise. So when we think about sovereignty, we need to think about less about other people and more about preserving and cultivating and growing our own energetic space from a place of groundedness.
Yeah, totally agree. Absolutely love the way you've explained that totally. So if someone was thinking about, having this aha moment, because I'm sure there's probably many people listening to this podcast that are like, holy shit, I'm entangled with Joe down the road or whatever.
And with everyone.
How do they start to call back their power and get grounded? Like, what are 5 tips, that you would suggest to someone around that, so then they can start to lead their space? Because then it doesn't happen overnight. Here's the old Pantene ad, Rachel Hunter. Doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen.
It'll happen. I think the thing to remember, and go back to one of your first questions that we were talking about, is what is the change and the shift? I've been doing some work for an organisation, and when they were doing their, why should we work with you type thing, I said, really just come out of my mouth, because I'm grounded. And they didn't quite understand what that meant. I don't think, that's really good, that's really good. And a few weeks into this, work with them, the CEO said to me, my God, you're so grounded. And I went, yeah, I told you I was grounded. And this sort of came out of my mouth like yeah, but because I am grounded. And the difference between how do I become grounded and I am grounded is the shift we're making. So I think about, I've been teaching grounding for, maybe close to 20 years. And when I first started teaching, it was like, it made me feel better, like I need to be grounded. And then they would ground, and then off they go back into their entangled world. And then they'd come back and go, make me grounded again, help me get grounded again. Because when we're not grounded, the energy does rush. Our mind takes over. We get, very pulled apart. What I'm seeing the shift in, what I think is moving into sovereignty, is people are realizing it's not about coming into grounding, it is that they are grounded. Being grounded is an absolute cornerstone of your sovereignty. And so one of our, core approaches to being who I am right now is I'm grounded. And so we need to learn grounding, and then we need to decide to be grounded, because you can have all the grounding techniques up the wazoo and still be ungrounded and still want to participate in the world that pulls you into entanglement and not do anything about that, which means all you're doing is having a grounding practice every day, because you're allowing yourself to be ungrounded, and then you want to come back to grounding, and you have this push-pull with your own sovereignty and your own power. Now, that's a learning experience, how we learn why being grounded is like one of your biggest power plays that you can ever have, because it impacts your environment so quickly. It impacts your children, it impacts your relationships, it impacts your money, it impacts all of it, because everyone's responding to who you are. But when they can be in your presence and feel more like themselves, and you've allowed them to be more open and more grounded, then we get into we get stuff that's really real. This is when we get to participate in other people's sovereignty, which is the magical part of where we're moving to when we come to leadership. So grounding, the first part of grounding, to answer your question, is there is a part of you that is ungrounded, and there's a part of you that is grounded, and you need to know the difference. So understanding what it feels like for you to be grounded is a key to this, and wanting to feel more of that more often is how you make the shift. I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can ground on a daily basis and become more and more enamored with this version of you, because this version of you is calmer, it has more peace, and it understands prosperity, and it's more curious about self, because the noise will start to stop. And that's the beauty of it. But if you're still wanting the noise, then this is going to be a push-pull. The first thing is to realize that your ungrounded energy and your grounded energy feel different. So knowing what those 2 things feel like is the cornerstone. Here's one way I use every day with myself and with my clients all the time. When you're starting to feel like you're being pulled around, stop and you ask this question, because we need to understand how energy feels. And we ask the question, who does this belong to? If the energy in your body feels lighter, then it's not yours. And you send it back. Go, thank you, let go. I don't know what it is, but I don't need to carry that energy. Let it go. If the energy feels heavy in your body, then that's yours to actually process. And so you might process that through exerting energy, because energy has layers to it. We have this top knot energy, which is sitting on the surface all the time, and that just needs to be processed out. So you might want to tap, you might want to dance, you might want to shake, you might want to go and stand on the ground and get rid of that energy to go, okay, now I can feel my body. I'm going to take some deeper breaths and go, all right, is there anything else I need to release right now? And you'll know, is there anything lighter that's not mine that needs to release? What is this now that I need to have? Then we can decide, is this how I want to feel? Is this grounded feeling how I want to feel 80% of the day? And yes, then we put in practices that make sure we're there. We start being grounded. We ground in the shower. We remind ourselves we're a grounded human. We remind ourselves that energy loves to be grounded. Energy, that's its home base. Like, that's where its power sits. And then we put those practices in place, because that's who we are now. We're nothing else but that. So you have to know what the energy feels like when you're grounded or not grounded. And the who does this belong to is a really easy way to do that. And if you've never done it before, it'll feel weird, because energy will go where you tell it to go. It hasn't got an agenda. It hasn't got a you have to be perfect before I'm going to play with you. It hasn't got any of that. It will just do what you want. And so practice that every day, making sure that you are removing overly how do I say this nicely? Overly stimulated substances from your body. So, because you're fighting against your body's natural grain when you do that. So that's anywhere between from tobacco to coffee to chocolate to sugar to things with lots of additives in them. The more you can get back to eating food that is closest to its natural state will help you in that grounding process. The biggest thing that your body loves to ground, which is through your base chakra, is physical movement. So physical movement will always be moving energy out of your body and bringing your body back into this space of remembering it's physical. Because when we get into too many spiritual practices and forget we're a physical body, we can become very, very ungrounded.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of people.
Absolutely.
A lot of people doing practices.
Yep.
You know, I'll just do my 10-step practice every morning, but they're actually, it's part of that guru model. I'm grounded today, but they're not at all. They're like, they might, you know, as soon as they step outside, they're back in the whirlwind, or social media, they're back in the, you know, fear narratives.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah.
So I think it comes back to that decision we talked about early on, is that, you know, are you prepared to be sovereign? Because that takes responsibility.
Oh, yeah. And I think that in itself is its own podcast, because I remember, you know, a few years ago when I was talking about sovereignty, people thought I was on a different, thought I was on a different walker. They could not understand that I made a sovereign choice for myself versus outside of the system. Like, that in itself was like a mega, what do you mean you can choose something differently? What do you mean? Yeah.
And it is about that responsibility. So we like the words, as you said, we like the words of sovereignty and embodiment and energy and leader and coach and spiritual guru, whatever it is, but there's responsibility with them, and they all have a vibrational reality. And so that cannot be done in comparison to anybody else. That can only be your internal space. And that's where you have to commit to your own growth. Because if we aligned with, say, the gurus of the world that we've had, we would all be bored and probably suicidal by now, because their growth stopped at being the guru. And all those, we don't want to ever get to this space that goes, I've hit the pinnacle, there's nothing else. All right, I can't change this now because this is who I am, this is my identity, this is my thing. We're not meant to have one identity. We're meant to grow through the world. We're meant to, our life is meant to be this unfolding, dare I say it, masterpiece, if you want to, lean into your own self-love and your own unconditional love of self. We're meant to be enamored by ourselves. We're meant to be fascinated and curious about ourselves. And then we're also meant to dig in and go deep and go, wow, I'm going to commit to this. What does it mean to be sovereign? Find out what the responsibility is for you to be that. And it's not about having to let go of anyone. It's not about having to, throw your life away. It is about who can you be. So are you being the best version of yourself in that moment? Are you being the best version? Because we don't know. Like, it's an unfolding, never-ending question. And you can only be in the space you're in right now. But if you're committed to your own sovereignty, the responsibility of that, and doing the things for yourself first, then that's an exciting journey for you to unfold for you. Whereas when we think about the old performative models, it's how can I impress people? What do I need to say for them to make me think that I know what I'm doing? How do I fake it till I make it? And that's energetically, there's such a gap between you and the other people. And right now, everyone's feeling that gap. Whereas that gap before was really tiny. Now we can, like, you look at someone and you go, oh, poor Dale, they're on their journey, but they want to believe they're at the end and they're the guru. And you go, no, you're just beginning. Allow yourself to be at the beginning. Allow yourself to be excited and dumb and naive and curious, and allow yourself to be that, because that is more powerful for you and for the people around you than pretending you've got all the answers, because we don't have the answers. We just don't. We're only here to experience what we're put in front of us. Your journey is different to my journey. They will intersect. But the reasons why we do them are different. And it's all, I think right now we can look at the chaos and go, my God, the world has gone to crap. I look at it and go, the world is finally inviting us to step up. The world is finally saying to us, have you had enough of this shit yet? We're going to keep going until you step up, because there's an energetic difference. You talked about the splitting of the world. And I remember in 2020, the first time we had that conversation, it was a lot of visions and downloads about seeing the world split. And then COVID happened. And then I assumed that's what it was. But it's about COVID. It was actually about people waking up to create a different vibrational reality on the planet. And that's always been happening. There's people that have walked this earth that have never had to intersect with many things that we intersect with. We can create lives. Everything on the planet is actually designed to create life. So life is always becoming and always opening and always available to us. There is a way that we can live on this planet without having to ever intersect with the chaos. And the more people that step into this space and become curious about it and shift that vibrational reality, the less chaos there will be. Because, we won't see it. There could be more, but we won't see it. We won't know it. And that's really exciting. We don't have to wait for some doofus president or prime minister to wake up. We just go and live our life differently, and we don't have to deal with them.
And I think that's important. If we stop consuming the narratives, the fear, the programming, the distractions, the everything, and start actually being present and living, all of that falls away. Our energy is no longer being siphoned. Our frequency is no longer being sucked dry, because our attention changes to where we actually need to we get to redirect our energy field. We get to redirect our narratives. We get to lead from a place of harmony, grounded sovereignty versus being having the life sucked out of us, thinking it's doomsday and World War III is coming tomorrow.
And because the rules of energy never change. Where your attention goes, your energy will flow. That's just how it works. Your energy is not, it's not something that has its own rules. That before it will do, you're in control of it. So if watching really weird AI videos makes you feel scared, stop watching them. If you don't want to, if you get really angry at what some idiots are doing in some part of the world, then stop listening to it, because otherwise their energy, as I said, we will go to the most dominant energy in our environments. That's where our energy will entangle, and we don't need it to be entangled there. We want to be entangled where you want it to be. And so if you want to be surrounded and your energy wants, and you'll know this because your energy is asking for more. It's asking to feel grounded. It's asking to feel open. It's asking to feel joy. And I think that is what being sovereign is about, is actually saying, what does it feel like to be more joyous? What would it feel like to be more prosperous? What would it feel like to live with more truth? And they're curious questions, but you have to want to know that they're possible, because it's just a different energetic reality. And the way we do that is we look at things that are more joyous. We consume ourselves with things that are more joyous. That's how we begin to get our energy reset to that dominant energy. But if we're not prepared to do that, then you're in that push-pull, I am, I'm not. I've got to wait for them to fix the world. No, you don't. I've got to wait for them to level up. No, you don't. I believe, and I've always believed, there are people in the world that descend the way they're descended to remind us and poke us to keep evolving.
Yeah.
Because we can all be that. We have all humanity has the ability to be whatever the chaos is right now. We could all be that. But we can all not be that. And so that, I believe, is the sovereignty question, is what is it that you are deciding to be, and what responsibility you're going to take to make that your reality.
Yeah. So what responsibility do you feel as we are starting to lead our energy and we are holding space for within our work, within our environments, within our home? What do you feel is the responsibility for the new priestess leader? Not the leader that we've been sold from the spiritual model, but the actual leader, because I think it's all in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. It must come down to self-leadership. So if I think about the old leadership models, and even when I started doing spiritual work and priestess work, there was still this element of hierarchy. There was still this element of this priestess thing was better than this priestess thing. And the idea that, oh my God, that they're a green priestess and I'm only a this priestess. This idea of hierarchy splinters our sovereignty and our energy all the time. I've got this massive itchy head.
Oh, maybe this is
We need to remember that hierarchy only exists in conditional environments. That's the haves and the have-nots. When we're in sovereignty, there's no such thing as hierarchy. And that takes our psyche a little bit to get used to, because we're so used to, again, that approval and that ranking and that rating and that comparison and the telling me where I'm at. And we've had this since kids, who got the A, who got the F, who won, who didn't win. And I'm not saying we shouldn't understand where we're at, but that should not be the main dominant energy for us. We need to come from here knowing that what we're here to offer has value because we're alive, right? And as long as our focus is on raising consciousness, wherever you might be at, and for everybody else, not just for you, and knowing that when you rise, you allow everybody else to rise with you, there's more for everybody, then that is actually more powerful than this structure that says we must feed these people at the top because they're better than us, and then we'll have this trickle down effect that means people will get fed. How's that working? It doesn't work. It's never worked. So understand what you can see what you believe, and believe what you see, and don't rely on other people to tell you, no, this model is perfect because these people will do better than you can ever do. And there should be people on the earth that don't have a lot, because that means other people can have more. What a load of baloney. So when we're in this space, we're actually want to raise other people up, which means we have no business to be in their business. So as a leader, our leadership has to be about us first, knowing that when we're grounded and we're focused on allowing spaces to be open, full of trust, full of transparency, we activate the part of other people that want to rise to that. The challenge I think people have, especially women wanting to step into leadership roles, and I've said this many, many times, is I don't want to have to deal with I shouldn't say the word I normally say, I shouldn't have to deal with those people that suck my energy, right? I shouldn't have to wait for them to rise. I shouldn't have to, because that's what leadership's been about in the past. I'm here, I'm waiting for you to get here. Oh my God, this is so draining, because it is draining, because we come to the party assuming that that person doesn't know what they're doing. We come to the party assuming that person is less than us because they're lesser than us on a hierarchy. We come to the party assuming that they don't know how to do it. That's all baloney. When we come to the room knowing that every single person has the part of them to rise, whatever that looks like for them, and we trust they will know what they're doing for themselves, we let go of that burden to carry other people's energy, and we let go of the burden to be entangled with them. What we do open up is environments where we get to focus on being as extraordinary as we can be in that moment, as playful, as open. When I was teaching the Energy Academy last year, we got to this space, a solar plexus in us, which is where our power center sits, is also our biggest bully, and it can tell us that we have to be perfect before people will like us. But to circumvent all of that conditioning, we have to turn up giving everything we've got, not worrying about what the people in our audience or in our environments can deal with or can take or are ready for or understand. That's us actually diluting ourselves into this small talk of, I can't really be my full self because the people around me, they don't get it. That's actually talking ourselves down. We want to rise people up. We want to understand sovereignty. We want to experience every day and be the leader. We have to be prepared to give our all and want to be exploratory in those moments. So instead of holding back, we lean in. Instead of thinking, these people will judge me for it, have more fun. Being more of that for you gives you that physical, embodied experience of what that vibration feels like. And the more you can do that on a daily basis, the more that you start to break out and basically cut your entanglement off at its knees. And watch what people do around you. They will start to think about their own level of play or their own level of sovereignty without you having to say a word. And I think that's the part of leadership that we're moving to, is resetting the vibrational frequency for what is possible, for our consciousness, for curiosity, for joy, for prosperity, all those things we talk about. Now we've been asked to live it.
I remember when you and I first started to have these conversations, in past tense, it made me really realize that I was giving my power away without even consciously being aware of it. And when I started to, probably my move to Picton, some of that changed naturally. Some of it, I still every day need to work on it. But what really was the biggest eye-opener for me was when I started to call back my energy from places, people, and spaces. It really became apparent who was still prepared to show up. And I think, there was a real loss for me, a loss of, people that I cared about, but also an identity. And, of that Mrs. Fix-It. And then all of a sudden, dial up a medium. I don't want to have, I was so exhausted being in that energy that there was no space for my own wisdom for myself.
And that's when we get, especially as women, we get into, it's not only women, but mainly women, we get into the space of being the caretaker.
Yeah.
That's why we often move into healing roles, because we're so used to taking care of people. It's just a natural feeling that, that feels, because you're so practiced at it. Being the leader means that you have to agree, accept that other people can take care of themselves, and that healing is not enabling. And the most healing thing we can do is lead ourselves, change the vibrational reality, so they then can see how to do it for them. We don't have to teach people anything if we're not doing it ourselves. We're not being it ourselves. And we can't do it in a room and then not be it at home. We can't. And that sometimes our body goes, oh my God, that feels like a lot of responsibility. But that's because we're looking at it through the lens of hierarchy. When you get rid of hierarchy and you realize that that doesn't exist, it was man-made, and allow your body to do what it naturally wants. So being more grounded naturally occurs when you're really focused and committed to your own vision. We become ungrounded when we're pulled into other people's drama, when we're pulled into other people's expectations, when we feel like we have to fix things for people, or we have to play a role that we've taken on, or we have held the identity for, the people pleaser, the caregiver, the fixer, which a lot of women do. When we think, oh my God, if I let go of that, I've got nothing. No. That's the beginning of your becoming.
Yeah.
And because you're not really helping anybody by enabling them. We help, we change, we lead when other people can see how they can help and change and lead themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's by, I say, resetting the energetic table again every day. And we're not going to get it perfect every day. And sometimes we're going to get activated and sometimes we're going to be reactive. But its ability to go, oh, hang on a second, let's take a breath. Excuse me, let's reprogram, throw about that. Like internally, we can stop it. We can change it. We can put down the phone. And that's all decisions that we have to make.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you that are like left field.
Okay?
Okay? Because I know that there'll be people wanting to hear more of your wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
What have you realised that you're no longer available for in this next layer of evolution?
It's a really great question because I think this was something I have known as a really small child and it scared the crap out of me. And that's that whole idea that people in leadership have power over you.
Mm-hmm.
And looking the world in a very misogynistic environment that I grew up in, there was an idea that I took on very much that my power was limited because other people had the ability to take that power from me. Whether it was physical, I'm going to physically take that thing away from you and you've got no power to take it back. Or it was this I call it the invisible P, the invisible patriarchal energy that sits above us that says that we're limited in what we're here to experience because, I can't have that or I shouldn't have that or I'm not allowed to have that. And there's been examples where when you've got there, people have taken it away. That is something that I've absolutely let go of. And I get fascinated and I surprise myself when I'm faced with people that think that's still their role in the world because they've got a title, that therefore they've got power over you. And watching how that plays out sometimes can be still scary because you go, those systems are still in play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to participate. When I don't participate, I take my power back. And invariably, through those processes and when in those environments where I refuse to participate, especially when they're really trying to take power from me, it's like watching something dissolve over time. And it's that reminder to me, and we can say it in all different ways, that light has more power than dark. Grounded is more powerful than ungrounded. Your energy and yourself in its grounded, most sovereign, most enlightened space will always dwarf people who are not. And not because you want to take power from them, it's because you don't want to participate in the engagement of people that have made no decision to change themselves. They just want to work the system for themselves. And also, in the same breath, having absolute compassion for those people. Because I choose to believe, I don't know if it's right or not, but I choose to believe that they don't know any different. It's not like they get up in the morning and they go to the whiteboard and go, okay, am I going to be an evil prick today? Am I going to be a this today? Or am I going to be conscious and I'm going to be loving and compassionate? I don't think they understand what love and compassion is. I don't think they've experienced that yet. So they can't reject it if they don't know it exists. And I choose that because it helps me. Otherwise, it activates part of my childhood that says I have no power and these people will always win. And so when we look at the chaos right now, we can have a choice to go, there's nothing we can do about it. They've won. or we can say we can actually live our life and be the leaders that we need to be. So we get to choose in those 2 points, and that's what I've changed.
I love that. Love it, love it, love it. When you tune into your big picture, what legacy are you here to anchor into the world through your voice, through your presence, and through your work?
I want to say fun, disruption, and prosperity. I want people to really feel that these are not, when we're sitting in spaces where we don't feel any of those things, we don't feel like we've got the power, we don't know how to lead, because we think that's the only reality we have access to. There is absolutely, it's all vibrational reality. So, and I urge people, just do it for half an hour. Do it for an hour. What would it feel like just to feel joy for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Because that reality exists. You don't have to do anything to create that reality. You don't have to do anything to be that reality. It's all available to us. And so we get to choose it, and we get to practice it, and we get to embody it, and we get to be it. But we can't do that unless we're prepared to do it. Our old conditioning says we get joy once we've struggled and worked hard to get there. No, joy is available to you now. Walk outside and breathe in the sunshine. And that might sound a little bit, oh, yeah, Maree, but what about just practice it? Just be it. Just involve yourself in it, and then see what unfolds. Then see what decisions you make. Because the thing is, you don't have to feel like crap or exhausted or drowned or, put upon. You can also feel equipped and loving and loved and compassionate and prosperous and wealthy and transparent, and they have a different experience for you. And all I'm saying is they exist. We talk about the 2 worlds existing at the same time because these things exist equally. You get to choose which ones you want.
Yeah, everything's equal.
Yeah.
Okay, sister, final question.
Woo-hoo.
You might not like this one. It's an interesting one. I'm so curious to know what you say.
Okay.
If you fully trusted your higher self, what bold, undeniable move would you make next?
Oh, my heart just...
I know. That's where I was like, even saying it, I'm like, shit, I don't even know if I know the answer to that.
What's coming up for me is that when I think about the ways that things are done right now, social media, emails, my brain went to all of those things and it went, they're not big enough, they're not big enough, they're not big enough, they're not big enough. So I think the reminder is that, we talked about before, we're our own algorithm, and we shouldn't be limited to what we think is available to what our bold self is. Because my brain went to, would I be bolder on Instagram? Would I be more like, what would I do on my emails? Like, that's where my brain went, because that's the process of being bold. I think it's actually holding that promise to myself.
Ooh.
Whether people saw it or not, or people responded or reacted or became my client or not. Like, I think it's it would be holding that promise for myself, that am I living my boldest self? Because only I can decide what that is.
Which is about everything that you've just said, giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
Maree, how do people connect to you, sister?
The best way and easiest way right now is on Instagram, at Maree Edding. I do have an email list, which I absolutely adore, and I have a podcast. However, come to me through Instagram. DM me if you want to say hello. I love to connect with people to say hello, how are you going? And we'll go from there.
And do you have at the moment any sacred offerings? Like, how do people work with you, gorgeous?
So I had a beautiful sacred offering came through to me last September called Dare to Dream. And this is the space where we basically say, are you going to dare yourself happy? Are you going to dare your dreams to actually become a reality? Are we going to stop thinking about them, and are we going to dare ourselves to be them? So when I talk about what we choose, Dare to Dream is a space to go, understanding there is a version of you that already exists because you feel them and you know them. But are you going to, it's like a bit of a truth or dare, are you going to dare yourself to be that happy? Are you going to dare yourself, I talk about, to be that bold self? And it's a 5-week beautiful program where people come to work with me. And the people that have come through it since September, I've been doing it quietly in the background. When I watch what they connect with and the decisions they make and the things they start or end in their life but commit to, it gives me goosebumps. The way they see themselves is different. And it's not an end point. It's an opening to understanding that your dreams are there for a reason. I think one of the casualties of the chaos in the world is a lot of people, especially women, stop dreaming. They stop believing that they could have. They stop believing in their boldness. They stop believing that they're leaders. They stop believing that they're change makers. And so Dare to Dream is my offering to help people remember that in a really connected, soulful, sometimes quirky way. So yeah, if people are interested in getting connected back to their dreams or understanding what it is right now, want to come and play with me in an energetic world, in a very grounded, matter-of-fact way, then yeah, let's have a chat.
I love that. And I have done Dare to Dream.
Yes.
My words were lush, lux, and
prosperity.
And I look, since doing that since November, there's been subtle changes, but then there's been some bold moves in the last 2 to 3 weeks, which my listeners will find out about in the near future.
And that's the purpose, right? And we as I said at the beginning, we think there's an end point and we're trying to strive for our end point. We think our dream is an end point, and that's where we get stuck. That's where we actually confuse our energy, confuse our minds, confuse our hearts. So Dare to Dream is like breaking that apart and saying, what if we just played with this? What if we went here? And every person that comes through it, it's different for all of them. And that's what I love. It's not about saying you must conform to this. Every time I connect with someone, their activations are different. What we talk about is different. That's what I love about being able to provide that type of container for people. It's for you. It's not for me. It's not me saying, this is what I know, I am the guru. It's let's play with where you're at. Let's activate parts of you that are ready to be activated. Let's open that space for you. And now, what decisions would you make? Now, what do your dreams feel like? Now, what can you commit to?
Yeah, totally love that. Well, thank you, Maree, for your time.
Thank you so much.
I know that everyone listening would have received so much guidance and wisdom. So let's just take a moment and just breathe all of that delicious wisdom, knowing, transmission into our bodies. This is the path, the priestess path. It isn't something you choose lightly. It asks you to shed, to unravel, and to release what you thought you needed to be and what you knew. And in that unraveling, you don't become something new, you actually remember. So as we leave this conversation, I invite you into this. Where are you being called to rise? Not as who you've been told that you are, but as who your soul already knows that she is. Trust that, follow that, and become that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily.
Thank you for listening to the Priestess Transmission. If you feel called to work with Lily, visit priestesslilly.com to explore sacred healing, guidance, and soul activations. Until next time, step into your power, remember your truth, and let your inner priestess rise.